Welcome back, race fans, to the Early Apex. I'm Rob with Dylan here, and today we're kicking it off with a wonderful race experience at Watkins Glen. I just had the great opportunity to witness Dylan's marriage, go to his wedding in upstate New York, and the next day went to a track day at Watkins Glen.
Not less than 24 hours after the wedding, you are at a track day.
Yeah, I think literally 7 hours later.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It was a late night. And it was a super early morning for you to get up. And because I'm not that close to Watkins Glen, it was a little bit of a drive for you in the morning.
Yeah, no, we left and it was dark. You know?
My goodness. So huge FOMO for me because... believe it or not, I have not been on Watkins Glen in a car that I've been driving. So I have actually been on it in a car when I was a child, which is why I got into cars to begin with. I was like, I drove right seat when I was 8 years old in my neighbor's race car, and that's, why I'm here now, essentially. But I've actually been on my bike, my bicycle. I will make a bicycle race many times on the course.
That's wheel-to-wheel racing.
Oh, two wheel racing. Yes. But no, I have huge FOMO. I really need to check this box. Rob, what was your first impressions driving in? For those of you that aren't aware, you drive into Watkins Glen, and one of the first things you do is you go in a tunnel and you go under the back stretch before the bus stop, and then you come up into the infield. What was your first impressions of Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it's definitely like a big, impressive professional facility. Some of like the more local tracks for me are a lot less so, like English Town or something like that. Even NJMP to an extent, just like not really a professional track. And this is clearly, a track that hosts some real racing, like IMSA has their GTP, races there every year. NASCAR's race there, MX5 Cup, etc. So it's, it was like a big, impressive facility. Big boy racetrack. Yeah. The only thing that outdoes Watkins Glen for me in terms of an entry lead into the facility is Barber Motorsports Park. And that's nuts because that's like you're driving up this manicured golf course. Well, he's got all those crazy sculptures, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's once you make it past the gate. So it's not that nuts. But out front, I just remember the first time rolling up to the gate. I mean, you've got, 20 lanes to get into the place. Obviously, you got the one lane for this event, but it just goes to show how large of events that it can host. It makes sense when you have, series like NASCAR that go there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what event was it again? Was it Hooked on Driving, did you say?
No, I did it with, now I'm blanking on it. Mass Tuning. So
Mass
it's like
Tuning. Mass Tuning, that's right.
Mass Tuning, which we did a track day with at Palmer, but
yes,
they hosted a dirt cheap $150 track day there. I think it was like some case of one like race club dropped out or something last minute, and they were paired with the Viper Racing Club. And so the Viper Racing Club needed someone else to like pick up their spot so that they could afford it, and it ended up being Mass Tuning, and it ended up for that reason being insanely cheap. Definitely the cheapest you can get on the Watkins Glen for.
And how much was it? If you don't mind me asking?
$150.
That is so crazy. That's
that's the cheapest track they've ever done. Cheaper than Track Night at America.
Unreal. It's not the cheapest for me, but that is actually that might be. But regardless, that typically you're spending at least $400 minimum
to get on the Watkins
Glen,
for sure,
and that's a decent price. That's awesome. Also, side note, shout out. You had a couple people join you.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
Who else was there?
We had Stefan of Nat Motorsports was with us in your co-owned track car.
That
met a fateful Fateful
We'll get there.
demise. Yeah,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
And of course, Cam, and then also
my best man Matt.
Matt, yes,
Matt. You guys convinced him during the wedding.
Yeah, we're at the wedding. You know, everyone's there like with their wives, and we're like trying to get every car guy there, like, come to this track day with us, come to this track day with us. And he was really on the fence. He's like, I have done no prep for this at all, nothing. He's like, I haven't bled the brakes in the entire ownership of this, 20-year-old M3. We're like, nah, you'll be fine. And we got him to come. So
that's so awesome. I'm so glad that you were able to convince Matt. Meanwhile, Matt was out till 1 a.m. Night before, and I think he might not have even gotten 5 hours of sleep. So what was the track itself? You go through. I'm imagining you probably do a driver's meeting. I believe that's what we did with Mass Tuning. You do a driver's meeting. And did you do novice? Yeah, what was that experience like?
Yeah, I was in novice, which I think will probably be my last track day in novice. So I did novice, asked for instructor, but they were just like low on people, so I didn't get one, unfortunately. Shout out though to the chief flagging person. I do not remember her name or her title, but she is like in charge of all the flaggers, who are all volunteer workers. But this older woman was incredible. It was like the best like flag rundown meeting I've ever been to. She was like just so funny, but also like gave you all the right information, and nothing was like boring. It was like she was incredible and legit. And also during the whole time I was there, the flaggers there were awesome. Like they were really on it. Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, I was a novice. And so it was a rainy day. It was like cold and wet, probably 50s, raining in the morning. And you
had your Veloster there, right?
Yeah, I took the daily because I had that big. It was a long weekend, and it was supposed to rain all weekend. So I said I'll take the daily, which is on all seasons. So ended up being the right tire and the right car for that track day, for sure.
Yeah.
It would have been scary in the Miata, especially with the state of these tires. Yeah. So first session we went out, and it was I think because of how heavy the rain was or something. So the Viper Club's still there, and Viper Club got pushed back, and so we got pushed back, and so they end up sending everyone out together. All the intermediate, advanced, whatever groups all at once, in heavy rain.
Whoa.
Which was exciting because, like on the front, I just remember the front straight being really bad. You just could not see. Like if there was a car in front of you, like even 200 feet in front of you, you just couldn't see. And your wipers were like not, like by the time the wipers, it was just, yeah. But that was fun, and like got quick. I was able to stay behind someone in like a GT3 RS. Obviously entirely because it was raining super heavily. So, but that was fun. Just like going as fast as a 3 RS. Okay. Yeah. So that was cool. It was a big experience, like going up the S's the first time. That was probably the biggest thing where like, probably like, you're probably about to ask this, but like, so to prep for it, I played like a couple hours of Forza, just lapping, Watkins Glen, on a gamepad too. But I just wanted to like know all the turns, like just know the track. Like I don't have to remember what turns coming up. Yeah. General sight line, et cetera. And it's like they had the Veloster in that game. So I was like, all right, perfect. And like after doing that and then coming there and going up the S's in real life, it was special. And of course I've spent, my whole life playing racing games and racing at Watkins Glen. So that was pretty special. That's pretty fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. It's hollow ground, right? Like F1 used to be there. Mm-hmm. It is probably one of like the top 5 known tracks in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. It is right up there. Watkins Glen, Laguna Seca. Sebring probably.
Yep.
And of course, like the NASCAR tracks like Daytona.
Yeah, in terms of like road tracks, yeah, it's probably
Yeah, in terms of road
top
tracks,
5.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's cool. Were any corners did any corners catch you out, or how'd you feel about the track overall? Like, did you feel like it was sketchy anywhere, or?
I think there's one turn that surprised me how scary it was, and another turn that I just knew from racing games. So there's, I'm gonna forget the turn numbers. Well, turn 1 for sure, right? Turn 1, in a game is like a piece of cake,
Yep.
Also because like at least in Forza, like the the curbing doesn't react like it does in real life, especially when wet. So it's wet out and the curbing is painted curbing, so it's super slippery. And so it's like touch the curbing, lose all your grip immediately. And it's a lot of runoff, and tarmac runoff after it, but it was still like, I need to stay away from this. And you come down the front straight with a ton of speed. And so like calculating, you're going downhill when you get to the braking zone. So calculating braking zone downhill, you crest the hill, you don't even see your entry point, so you're halfway through the braking zone. And then, just figuring out like how late I can push the brakes and how much speed I can carry through was tough. Like I'm sure I was leaving seconds just in that turn because of just like being conservative.
I could totally understand that. And was your braking? Did you initiate braking before you could even see the turn? Like, was it a blind crest?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You definitely were in the brakes. I mean, maybe if I was faster and if it was dry, I wouldn't be doing that. But for those conditions and my first time there, I started braking like before the crest. And then the other turn. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, because also on that turn, people might not realize, obviously you have curbing on the inside, like towards the apex of the turn, like on the apex of the turn. Yeah. But on turn 1, you also have curbing on the outside.
Yeah.
And that's, in wet conditions, I would imagine that's just, a large, very large. It's not like this little curb. It's a really wide curb. It's a big thing of ice out there in those kind of conditions. Yeah, you
don't want to touch that. You definitely don't want to touch that. And I'm sure, if you're going for it in the dry, you're on top of it. But in the wet, you don't want to touch it. So
the rain line's a little different.
Yeah. Actually, that changed too with the pit lane. A sidebar, but the pit lane, so I don't know what it is, 11, but it's the last turn before the front straight. That it totally changes wet to dry because for the dry line, you go right into the pit lane, right? You're going to cut you're 100% inside the pit lane. The problem is there is, it's painted, right? To show that it's the pit lane. So in the wet
where you merge, you
don't want to touch that, especially like HPD day where you're not trying to like go nuts. Like once you touch that, you're losing traction. And then on the left side, the outside of that turn is just wall. It's like 2 feet of curbing and a wall. So like, if you lose it over there, you're going into the wall. So that changes, like in the wet, it's a much tighter turn. And then in the dry, you can open it up way more and have a much bigger arc because, you can get right up into that lane. And then the other hard turn is like 7 or something. Man, I'm really gonna mess up the location of it, but essentially it's
is that the downhill left?
No, so
going into the boot. Okay,
it would be uphill left. So I think coming like out of the boot maybe, but coming out of the boot. So you're do
finishing up
braking zone
merging.
Downhill. You go right.
Yeah.
It's like a 90-degree right, and then you're going back up again, and you make the left. Let's see. I think it's turn 8 maybe. But that turn, it's like, it's blind. The exit is blind. And so it just is deceptively long. So it's a turn that I
9.
always crash on. Turn 9. It's a turn I always crash on in racing games. Every time I'm like pushing the limit, I always hit that wall. I always just like overcook it, hit the wall. And it's another one too where, especially in a front wheel drive car, it's like wait, until you can put the power down. You really have to wait. So that one was just tough. It never like was scary for me because I pretty much always just took it easy, from my racing game PTSD. But it was, I was definitely like, yes, turns would be really hard to like optimize.
Like nail. Yeah. And that's the turn where you remerge, because you were doing the full track. That's the turn where you remerge with the NASCAR track.
Yes, exactly.
Because they cut out the boot. They don't do the boot.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I haven't talked at length with Stefan, but we did have a big shunt. It was Stefan. I don't know if maybe big might not be the right word.
It was big.
It was big. Enough to damage the car.
It wasn't small.
Their day was done, so it was big enough for their day to be over.
Yeah.
But it looked like, after talking with him, it looked worse than it was. Like, the body's actually not damaged. The photos, it did look like it. They lost the taillight, or he lost the taillight, but he hit the wing first. So from what it sounds like, I think he was on the outside of that curbing on turn 1. It spun him, and he went across into the wall, like by the pit lane. I'm not positive on that.
So yeah, turn 1 strikes again. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was like probably like damp still, because I think that run was getting drier, but the curbing is probably still wet. Yeah. So yeah, left turn 1, hit the outside curbing at the exit, spun it 180, and then went into the inside side wall going backwards.
Yeah, inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it like, I saw the photos and I got a little concerned at first, but it does sound like it wasn't too bad. It was, a wing upright that didn't make it, tail light, a front fender, and that's pretty much it in terms of what like really was badly damaged. I think he's going to replace the wheel just out of just best practice.
Yeah, definitely.
And he'll like inspect everything and whatnot. But yeah, that's why it's nice to have a track car, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was it definitely like scared me a little bit. Although I still want even faster on my next session, but
all right. So final thoughts on your time at the Glen. Is it something we'd want to do again?
I would
want to go back to?
I am like dying to go back. It is the most fun track I've done so far.
Wow. Okay.
And there's like a lot of fun stuff to learn. And that's even though my car broke down twice on the track, which I've never actually. Okay, no. Once I have had
did you
my
get
Miata
towed
break
off?
on track. No, I
Okay.
Basically, I'm going along and I lose power. I got I have a little bit of power, but not what I should have, and I can hear this. Just kind of blowing turbo sound. Yep. I'm like, okay, some boost hose, intercooler hose came off. And so I limp it back into the pits, roll into the pits, and me and Stefan are like, okay, definitely a hose. So I pull off the under tray because you can't see like any of the hoses from the top. And it's immediately apparent, just like the, I guess it is the charge pipe hose, basically the hose that comes right off of the turbo. To go towards the intercooler that had just popped off, and the clamp was just sitting in the under tray. So I was convenient. Like, all right, cool. That's convenient. So we popped that bad boy back on there, tightened it up. We just figured I chalked it up to like, I don't know, Hyundai didn't tighten it up or something, whatever. I go back out, still the same session, and after like 2 laps, same thing. Take the NASCAR track back, roll it right back up, pull the under tray back off, and we're like, okay, this clamp, and the clamp is gone this time. And so and this time we're like, okay, well, one, we obviously need a new clamp, but that clamp was obviously like stripped or something. And so my girlfriend Laura was with me, and I'm like, okay, can you go up to the pits, or like, because we were like away from the garage where like the whole like Viper Club was and stuff, and like everyone had their trailers. I'm like, there's got to be someone up there with the hose clamp. Like there's full teams up there. Yeah. I was like, can you go up there and sweet talk them into giving me a 2.5-inch hose clamp? And so she comes back like 10 minutes later with the hose clamp.
Yes.
And we get Stefan's like, you need some hairspray on this.
Oh yeah, so you do.
Laura had hairspray.
Oh my God! Laura's just coming in for the clutch.
Hairspray it, put it on, hose clamp. Apparently, airspray is like an old, like turbo builder trick if you don't have like a bead roller or something.
It's a bike mechanic trick too with grips.
For grips,
Mountain bike.
right? Yeah. So works good stuff apparently. So I slipped it on with the hairspray and a fresh hose clamp, tightened it up. It's been good ever since.
That's awesome, Laura. What a save!
Yeah, she saved
That's
it.
amazing.
She totally saved it. So I was, thank you, Laura. And there's your shout out.
There's a shout out. That's awesome.
But
dude, awesome experience. Hopefully I'm going to be with you the next time you're at Watkins Glen. Let's make it a thing. I really need to check that box next summer.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. I'm like dying to do it in my Miata on a sunny day. Would be incredible.
Nice. Let's do it. Next up is our classic FMK segment where, Rob, I'm going to present to you 3 different cars, and you're going to have to F, marry, and kill each of the cars. All right? You have to choose one for each of the scenario.
I'm ready and willing, Dylan. Ready and willing.
And in today's segment, I have chosen to present to you 3 concept cars that were actually built by manufacturers but never brought to production. All right? And I'm laughing because this is just what we were talking about off camera that you had interest in.
Oh, man.
So let's find out if we have any crossover here with what you were thinking. But I've got some deep cuts here.
Okay.
One of these you might know. The 2 I don't think you know, and I'll lead off with the first. So, take yourself back. It's 1998, and Ford is still making cars under the Mercury label. And the Mercury Cougar is out. This is a 2-door Econo box attempting to be sporty. Do you remember that Mercury Cougar?
Yeah. It was like a Tiburon.
It was very similar to a Tiburon, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you know that they actually made an 2.5 liter V6 all-wheel drive version of that car, the Cougar S.
Ooh, like a Talon TSI competitor.
Yes.
Clips GSX.
Yeah, similar. Similar. Actually,
deal.
it was a 3 liter. It was a 3 liter, excuse me. But yeah, 3 liter V6. It had a 45 more horsepower than the standard car. And the coolest thing about it, in my opinion, is, yeah, it's a 2-door coupe, but it had all-wheel drive. Imagine if that had come out.
Oh, yeah. That's
What
sweet.
a cool car.
That's sweet. I mean, we all, we still love the Clips GSXs, so.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would have changed my mind for what Mercury and that brand could have been, right?
Yeah.
Just a cool car. I mean, a little lower in power, but I mean, remember, this is 1999.
Yeah, as long as it didn't end up like a Chrysler Crossfire or something, yeah.
Well, what I was going to say is I think at that time, 215 horsepower is still pretty reasonable.
That
pretty
was like Mustang
respectable
horsepower back then.
at the time. Yeah, I think the Mustang might have been a little bit more, but like not much.
know.
I think the Mustang was under, like that was a 5.0. I think that was under 250 at the crank, quote unquote. I think it was like, what, 235, 240 or something, rated generously, potentially. Anyway, so yeah, the Mercury Cougar S. I had not seen that car until I started really researching this segment. Car number 2. I have mentioned this to you before, but I don't know if you remember it. This is I sent you the article. This is one of my all-time favorite articles.
Yeah.
2004 Ford Racing Focus RS8. What Ford did is they took the drivetrain from a Mustang and they shoved it into an old Focus. It is a V8 rear-wheel drive Focus.
What?
And Motor Trend got their hands on it and they did a head-to-head with a Lambo. It is like
incredible.
Everything that I know and love about Motor Trend.
Oh my God, I'm reading this article.
Like,
what?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is nuts.
It's awesome. So I'm trying to look up the specs here in real time. what was this rated for? It was doing the quarter mile in 12.7. I mean, that's fast still by today's standards. Quick by today's standards. But yeah, talk about an experience. Just, could you imagine a V8 in that thing?
Yeah. Sparko seats. I cannot. Oh, it's got the A-pillar gauge cluster.
Oh, yeah, it does. Ford Racing. Gauge
Racing. That is, I think, insane.
Sparko seats. I think it was a 390 supercharged 4.6 V8 is what they threw in there.
Oh my god! I hope it just like thrashed that Gallardo. Gallardo.
I'll leave you to the rest of the article, but I mean, such a cool car. One of my go-to favorite articles Motor Trend has ever done. So a rear-wheel drive V8 Focus is your second choice. Third choice. This is a little later on. Well, actually, it's close to similar age. I think this is around the same time that VW acquired another company. But the third car is the Volkswagen GTI W12-650.
I know it well.
Yeah, you know this one. This is the one that I expected people to...
Oh my God, that is such an icon. I remember when the article came out in Motor Trend about this car. Like, I remember reading the articles. Because this is like the 2006... What is it? What is this? A Mark 6?
Yes.
Or is it a Mark 5?
Looks like it's a Mark 6. Mark 5? Mark 5.
I forget which Mark this gen was, but I do remember it coming out very well.
They took an Audi R8, was it V12, and shoved it in the middle.
It's like
or W12.
It's the engine because VW had its parts bin. What would it have come from? Oh, it's like a Bentley thing, I think.
I think you're right.
I think it was a Bentley thing because they put it in the Passat. You could get a Passat with a W12.
The Phaeton. Yeah, it's the Phaeton.
Oh, was it a Phaeton? Okay.
I think that's what it was called officially. It was basically a Passat, but
anyway,
they went upscale. I believe they called it a Phaeton.
Imagine buying a Volkswagen off the lot with a W12.
Yeah, the R8 wasn't the engine. That was my fault. They basically went through like parts bin and they took the Audi R8 brakes and threw it on it. Because this is very different from the other two where they changed where the engine was in the car.
Right. It's like a total re-engineering. There's nothing left.
It's a mid-engine hatchback. It's just absolutely insane. I think the 0 to 62 time was somewhere in here. It was like 2.7 seconds or something nuts, especially for the time. W12. Yep, there it is.
Oh my gosh. I love this interior too.
Absolutely insane. Like a total internet builds before internet builds, right? Like total meme build almost.
I mean, like this car represented everything I wanted in a vehicle at that age, right? I was because it was also like the attainable car, right? Like I was looking at these car reviews of this and like 7th gen Civic Si and Mini Coopers and stuff like that. And like, oh, like that's what I'm going to buy when I'm 16. Like I'll get one of these used, projecting 8 years in the future or whatever. No, what was it? 6 years in the future. And so like that represented the ultimate like modded version of that. To all insanity. And also like
unlimited budget.
Yeah, unlimited budget. And I already loved, like rally cars and mid-engine rally cars. And there was the Clio in Forza, which is like the only car in the last 20 years that's a mid-engine hatchback that I can think of. The Clio V6 is what I'm talking about. Europe only. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else over the past 2 decades.
No.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Anyway, super cool. Man.
So you need to choose between the three. And it might be somewhat obvious, but I don't know.
I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to think about it.
I think even the Mercury's kind of interesting too, because it's definitely like the least breathtaking of the three. But I don't know. It's really interesting that Mercury actually built an all-wheel drive vehicle or an all-wheel drive Cougar, and it almost looks like the most realistic of the three, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, that is true. I will say the Cougar actually seems like a car they almost made, the Cougar S. But I also get the feeling like the Cougar S is going to be, what were we ragging on before? It was the Pontiac GXP?
GXP.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the vibes it gives me.
The G6 GXP. Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure that interior
the G6 GXP
is not great.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously the other ones of these are just like, half, engineering, what is it? Design exercises, half a design exercise, half a marketing deal,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where's the Renault, F1 powered minivan?
That would really fit in a segment with the W12 midship GTI. That would really fit.
Okay. It's incredibly simple for me to answer. I'm getting the W12 GTI, 100%. Even though it's not a manual.
To marry.
What? The Mary, yes, the Mary. W12, because one, it's Volkswagen, so it's gonna even despite it being an absolute Frankenstein car, it's gonna be more reliable than a Mercury Cougar S. That is guaranteed.
Okay,
guaranteed.
Okay. I don't know.
Even though it has a W12,
it's a W12.
Even though.
I don't know about
actually.
that.
Maybe not, but
you can get it, but you're lying to yourself.
Listen, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if it was
the Cougar's got a simple dual overhead cam V6.
It wouldn't matter if MGB made it in the 60s. I'm taking that every day.
That's
that
fine.
Thing is
you can totally
sick.
take it. You can totally take it. I think it is sick. I'm just saying your justification of the reliability, let that go.
That thing would be so much fun. That thing would be insane. Just like I would just challenge everyone I possibly could on the street to a race. And they just
the other thing too is that looks insane too because it's a wide body. Before even like wide bodies were the craze that they are now.
It's a very good looking car, honestly, in my opinion. I think they took that design language and then that iPod Nano second gen design language of that era and just took it to its limit in the best way. I think it's like a really good looking car, honestly, as far as any Mark V, whatever it is, GTI hatchback has a right to be. It's a good looking car. And the way they did the interior too, it looks like they could make it. Like it looks great. It's handsome. And the interior doesn't look all that dated either. Like it looks pretty solid. And then I'm taking the this Focus RS8 on one crazy drive. That's getting the F. That would be sick. Just like V8 sounds coming out of a Focus. Yeah. And I mean, if it handles anything like my SVT, like it'd be an awesome drive, I'm sure.
I'm sure it's an awesome drive. I'm also sure that it handles nothing.
That's true. You're right. That's
with
totally
that giant boat anchor of a V8.
I can't wait to read it. I want to know like how they did the rear suspension. Like they just shove a solid axle in from the Mustang. Like, what's the deal? Because the original car was, I think, torsion beam rear, and there's no adding axles to that. So it's like a whole new rear subframe in there, I think. I also really wanted to see it like crush this Gallardo. I'm reading this article like right after we finish recording.
I'm looking through it right now. It actually didn't have as bad of weight distribution than I was expecting. It was 56-44 front to rear. So that's not as nuts as I was expecting it to be.
That would be like an ultimate daily for me. And the way that the clown shoe is, at least growing up for me, the clown shoe represented front engine, rear wheel drive, mostly hatchback rear wheel drive. And that was the combo, the ultimate combo. Of course, it doesn't make any sense for a manufacturer to make this, especially for an American market. In Europe, you can still get a 1 Series and a 2, and then the 2 Series is a hatchback, but not here. But having that hatchback rear-wheel drive combo is like, to me, ultimate daily status. And this thing, if actually made, which would make no sense, but would be such a cool thing to pick up now and have as your daily.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the poor old Mercury getting crushed.
Is it any surprise, Dylan? Is it any surprise? You sound
No, it's no
disappointed.
surprise.
You sound disappointed.
Well, it's the underdog of the three, and I guess I should have.
I feel like
known.
that the thing is, though, they're all underdogs. Literally, the other article is about the Focus being an underdog.
Well, it's underdog to the Lambo, but in general,
It's the underdog of the underdogs.
yeah. So I guess I may have stacked the deck against the Mercury. That's more what I'm reacting by. We definitely differ, but I can't argue too strongly with you. I'm also like half looking at the conversion kit, which apparently was made by a company to do Ford Focus V8 conversions. This is crazy. I'm going to go down this.
Can I still get
hole.
it?
I don't know. The website that I'm on does load, but it looks like it was made from 2000, so who knows? I'll share you the link after this. But for me, dude, the Mary for me is definitely the Focus.
Oh, really?
I've seen videos of these cars driving on YouTube and just doing donuts and hearing that raspy V8 come out of that tiny little two-door hatchback. Dude, that's what dreams are made of, man. That's what dreams are made of.
That's an ultimate sleeper.
Just an ultimate all-round vehicle. Like that, could you imagine something better than that?
No,
Dude,
you're right. That's all I was saying. Front engine, rear-wheel drive, V8.
And and maybe the adult in me or the realist in me or just the crushed soul in me has no interest in owning a W12 vehicle of any sort.
What? 12 cylinders, Dylan. 12 cylinders.
That is 12 problems waiting to happen. I've got 8. I've got more than enough problems. 12 cylinders is
like,
not one of them.
4 is enough for me. I don't ever need more than 4
Yeah,
problems.
4, absolutely. But you're dang straight I'm going to have to take that for a drive. I got to know what that's like. Come on.
650 horsepower. Just
not only that, but
nuts.
how many times do you have the opportunity to drive a W12?
just go buy a, what would you say, a Phaeton? What is it called?
Phaeton.
The Phaeton. Just go buy you could probably
Phaeton.
pick a Phaeton up for like running 10 grand, you know?
Now it would definitely be the cheapest way to get into
A 12 cylinder.
that engine.
And the absolute
A 12
worst.
cylinder, yeah.
And the absolute worst.
And that, unfortunately, doomed from the beginning. We're crushing that Cougar. Yeah.
That poor
But
thing.
hey, I hope this was fun, though. I did have fun kind of stumbling across the Cougar and looping back in that
No,
that
I have
RS,
never
Focus.
heard, as much as I love this Gen Focus, never heard of this thing.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. And I want one.
It's
thank you.
Yeah, it's my wet automotive dream right there, Rob. You now know something more about me today. Awesome.
The end is officially here, Dylan. Top Gear has been suspended indefinitely by the BBC. Announcement was made about a week ago. I mean, we all knew it was coming. You know, I don't think anyone's actually surprised after the Freddie Flintoff thing. Yeah, I think the writing was on the wall. And also, you know, Top Gear's performance for the last few years. So
The Freddie thing, that was the injury, right?
yeah. That was the life-threatening crash.
Yep.
that
And then they
happened while
haven't been
filming.
making episodes since.
Right. They went on hiatus after that. Definitely, I mean, you know, the right thing to do, you know, out of respect for him, I think. Anyone would agree with. I think all the hosts agree with that. So, yeah. But, suspended indefinitely.
That is an interesting way to release the news, BBC.
Well, I mean, it's a big brand for them. They got to keep it going. The money,
Yeah.
they still want the money out of it that it used to make for them, the ratings it used to get them, the viewer numbers. So, Top Gear has been taken away and reborn once, at least once before. So I'm sure they're thinking of doing it again. But
For sure. And I also think just recently there was news around Top Gear Australia coming out, if I'm not mistaken, because Moog from Mighty Car Mods is, I believe, said to be one of the hosts of the Australian Top Gear. So it's just interesting that, the brand is bigger than Top Gear UK. It was never called Top Gear UK, but Top Gear, like the OG Top Gear, which was obviously based in the UK. When you have all these other, offshoots, they've had 2 attempts at a Top Gear USA, I believe, and now they have a Top Gear Australia. I think they've had one previously. So it's just interesting that like Top Gear, the brand, is like that big to where it's almost outgrown just, a show on the BBC.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think like any brand that starts making a lot of money, you get spinoffs. It's like, look at The Walking Dead. It's like 4 spinoff shows. I can't even like keep up with it.
True.
Yeah, I guess, it doesn't surprise me, right, that there's all these spinoffs, and it really speaks to its success. Although, Top Gear America never found its footing. Hopeful for the Australian one. I honestly might like make a point to go watch it and check it out. Just, I guess, mostly because of Moog, because I grew up watching him. But I'd be curious to see what they do with it. Maybe they're able to find what arguably the BBC never found after Clarkson left or was fired.
Yeah, until Clarkson was fired, and Hammond and James left. Right, they never really kind of regained the magic that those 3 had, and arguably, I'd say it was decent, but the 3 had never really got back to the same magic either on their own offshoot with Amazon and the Grand Tour.
I think you could say, like, everyone agree the host made Top Gear, right? It was the chemistry, between Hammond, Clarkson, and James May. And that makes Top Gear. And the Grand Tour definitely had a rough start. The first season, after the first episode, it was just like weird. They couldn't get any good guests for some reason.
It was a little cringy, some of the bits.
Yeah, and they tried to do exactly the same thing they were doing before, and it didn't quite work. And then I think they found their footing really by just focusing on the specials. Like the Patagonia special was... I think one of the best things they've ever done, and will probably be their last great, episode. Because it was really, really freaking good. And I think it's because like all the times that I think it's really good, they get off script and it feels organic and possibly like is organic, like what happened in their like United States tour when the guys in pickup trucks came to like, I don't know, assault them or drive them out of town. Like, it was real, it felt organic, and that's what was great. And I think they captured that again in the Patagonia thing, because it really felt like they were exposed. And now I think they're just at a point where it's just like dangerous. Like they're just too old to do that. And then, James May like crashed in that Evo in the tunnel and got seriously hurt. Which one, keeps it real. I guess it's that weird blend, that line you have to ride, especially with a show like this. There's like a suspension of disbelief of, is it scripted? Is it real? Or, which one is it? And you want it to be real. You want everything to be real. But of course, that's also incredibly dangerous and irresponsible. And, so riding that line, I think they did really well in Top Gear, especially in its heyday, and I think they captured that a few more times in Grand Tour. Not every time, not most of the time, but definitely a few times in a way that Top Gear BBC, after they're leaving, after 2015, never did.
Yeah.
Like maybe not once.
the biggest strength of the three of them was two different things. One is they're bickering. It looks genuine, especially.
I think it is genuine. I don't think there's anything disgenuous about it.
No, 100%. And I think that's like a large part of the magic. It's not forced. It's authentic. And the fact that I'm really curious, actually, now that I bring this up, I'm curious if any of them have a background in it, but they clearly have a level of improvisation between the three of them, even if it's not like some crazy off-script thing like James getting hurt in a car accident, which is obviously not a good thing, but off-script. But even just like discovering a funny bit organically, like you would doing that sort of exercise, as like a comic or something like that. But they're doing that in like a car show setting.
I think, I think it's something akin to like any group. Like, I mean, even greats like Monty Python, right? Like they are three incredible hosts that are also friends that have real relationships with each other that you can feel in the show. You can feel their relationships. You can feel how, how they have problems with each other. Like, not just that they like each other, but that they don't like each other sometimes, and they screw with each other. And sometimes they're just straight up fed up with each other, and you could feel it, and it was real and helped, suspend that disbelief that this is all, like, this is legit. They're really doing it. It isn't scripted. Yeah, that real friendship that they had, I think, was huge. For that chemistry. And they, like you're saying, they could riff off of each other so well to create those like organic,
magic moments.
Yeah.
So what do you think the future holds with this news? Like, do you think... I feel like it's one of those things where a franchise just can't die because somebody somewhere is going to make money off of it, right? So it's only a matter of time until they try to come back. There's been 3 different Spider-Man, right? Like, it's not going away anytime soon. Sorry, Tom. Sorry, Tom Holland.
Gosh.
You're not going to be the last Spider-Man. Wow. You're going to age out. It's going to reboot, and it's going to be somebody else at some point.
Yes. 100% that's what's going to happen with Top Gear too, Yeah. I mean, it happened in the 90s, like with the current boot of Top Gear, right? Like there was Top Gear before this, and it was like about as boring as Auto Week or Motor Week, whatever. What's that? Motor Week. Yeah, it was about as boring as Motor Week. It was just super dry and factual and boring, right? And then, Jeremy Clarkson helped rebuild a new show that was totally different. It was Top Gear, and they just capitalized on the name recognition, but it was a new show with a totally different atmosphere. And I am certain there will be a new Top Gear within 5 years, maybe even 2 or 3 years. And hopefully, because I think, right, the BBC, after they left, they tried to just get new hosts in there and do the exact same show. Film it the same way with that really exciting, almost avant-garde at times, like shot styles and cutting and blah, blah, blah. Like they did some amazing stuff. They tried to just copy everything, just with new hosts, just paste in new hosts. It'll work fine, right? Top Gear makes money, and it didn't because it needs the host. It's the backbone. So hopefully, where I'm getting at this is BBC is honest with themselves that the show needs a reimagining. It needs to change.
It needs to evolve.
And I think it does need to evolve. I think even if they were allowed to keep doing the show, it would also be getting stale now, just sort of in the way Grand Tour is getting stale. They're getting old, and also Jeremy's humor is not of this era. And I think stuff has to change eventually. So I think they need to find new hosts and new creators that have a new vision for it. And reimagine the show. And I think it could be good again, for sure, just in a totally different way than it used to be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's definitely just a matter of time. I think you're right where the success of Top Gear is in large part also to its timing. It's at the right place at the right time, with the right hosts, making the right kind of jokes, for that era. Yeah, it was like the
Yeah.
pinnacle car show for the time. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of reincarnation they come up with. Hopefully they get creative with it and get a little outside the box with it and not, do as much copy and pasting like they have in the previous generation.
Yeah.
No, I should say the most recent generation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's out there. It's definitely out there. And I think, what is it that is the three very famous YouTubers, the VinWiki guy, and I'm blanking all their names right now, that they did their own show just like Top Gear, but on YouTube, sponsored by Auto Trader, I believe. Please
I'm looking it up.
while we look up these names. But it's a great show. I've watched like quite a few episodes of it. It's a little awkward because it's three very big car YouTubers, so they think they share. Like one season gets published on, Tavares is one of them. One season gets published on Tavares' channel, then the next season gets posted on, VinWiki's channel, etc. It's a little broken up, but I could see, a studio buying this and putting it on a streaming service, and I think it has merit to be there because these guys have a lot of that chemistry that I think, OG Top Gear hosts had.
Yeah, it was Freddie, Tavares, Hernandez of Tavares' channel. You also had Tyler Hoover.
Right, Hoovy's Garage.
Hoovy's Garage, and then Ed from VinWiki.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. So, right, I think they did a nice job, honestly, with it. And as far as like free YouTube stuff goes, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's good.
And it is a copy in a lot of ways of Top Gear. But just going off of this, I think YouTube is honestly where they're going to find the next Top Gear. It's from people who are on YouTube creating, and you have guys who are doing really interesting, different stuff on YouTube. There's so many different... There's just so much creativity happening there in an unformed space.
Also, it's like, I want to tune in to Top Gear Australia just to see Moog, right?
Right.
Like, do they bring in?
They already did it, right?
Yeah.
There it
well,
is.
like, do they do a US? Because I don't think there's a US one right now. If they revamp the US, do they do like Rob Dom, Tavares, and some other person? Like just all like YouTube people.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you know what? I think they got to find that right crew of friends.
They do. That are genuinely, and they could be introduced through it, but that genuinely have that sort of chemistry and that sort of dynamic on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll happen though. Yeah, it'll happen eventually.
Cool. Well, I think that's about everything for me on Top Gear. Finishing up, if you had to guess exactly how many years from, let's say that it's 2023. I know it's the end, but let's say it's 2023. In what year is the BBC coming out with the new Top Gear? How many years from now?
It's 2026.
2026.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure. All right, I got a better one for you. What's your favorite Top Gear episode, Dylan?
Oh my goodness. Man, there are so many. So I forgot which jungle where they did like a river crossing and built bridges. That's one that comes to mind.
I think that might be the Vietnam one. Was that the one where they got the like overlanders, like they had like the Toyota Land Cruiser, like vintage Land Cruiser, or is that before that?
I think it was before that. I'm envisioning like really big buses, but I could be wrong. Vietnam was going to be one of them as well.
Yeah,
for me, because these are their specials. But honestly, one of the bits that stands out most in my mind is actually something really simple. Is when they compared going to rallycross and how it's cheaper than golf. And I think that is like a little microcosm of what made Top Gear great for not doing the trip thing. Like everyone's copied three guys buy cars and go on an adventure, and it's great, it's fun, but like everybody's done it. They managed to do what? Like a 20-minute bit. They were all racing. It was compelling. They were having a blast. And what was the through line? This is cheaper than golf. You can do motorsports for less than, this silly, posh sport that's golf. I think that was one of the bits that stands out.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I appreciate that. That goes along with the theme of our little podcast here.
Yeah. One other one that this is more of a story behind it.
Yeah.
But if you remember, they did this several times. They basically did like soccer, but with cars.
Oh yeah.
Right? Do you remember this?
Yeah. 100. Yeah.
What? I'm trying to remember. What's the video game they basically made that's just like this? Rocket League. They basically were doing Rocket League, but with more cars. And apparently the story is something along the lines of like, those were all borrowed cars from manufacturers with no intent on like destroying them. They were bought by the BBC. Like they were borrowed from manufacturers.
We work for Top Gear. Can we just borrow 10 Yaris's?
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're just destroying each other, running in, playing very aggressive cars.
Okay, make sure we got the good insurance. All right.
My gosh. Yeah.
Those
the kind
are
of stuff
amazing. Yeah.
That like the trips are amazing. Going to the US was amazing with the situation they found themselves in. But like just even their more basic bits, there's magic in them that just has not been captured since, in my opinion.
I think it was when they took things to the limit for me, was like to the limit of believability of like, when you knew when this was pitched that everyone else was like, what the hell are you talking about? That stuff was because that was, before the internet, right?
Yep.
That was before. Nowadays, every dumb thing you can think to do, every insane idea, someone has done it on the internet, right? But that was before that, and it was incredible. When they turned, what they do? They turned a Reliant Robin into a rocket ship.
Yeah.
They,
that's a great one.
They turned not amphibious cars into amphibious cars.
Yep.
They crossed like the Sahara, right? Like
they were out Mr. Beasting Mr. Beast before Mr. Beast was a thing. Like they were doing that level of.
They were
like
basically
stuff,
whistling
cars.
Diesel. They were whistling Diesel before whistling Diesel, I think.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, and that was I love that when I was a kid watching Top Gear. That I freaking love that. That was like.
Yeah. It just has universal appeal too. You bringing up the Reliant Robin episode. I remember we are on a trip with my parents. And my mom, at the time, not a car person whatsoever, we turned that on, and she's glued to the TV. She's loving it.
No, absolutely.
Like, it was for everybody.
Yeah, it had universal appeal. Those guys were funny. You didn't have to care about cars. They had amazing hosts too, and Clarkson is like a great interview and brings out great moments with the hosts or the guests.
Guests,
and they had every big name of the era on. So Tom Cruise is on twice.
Yeah. And can wheel. Yep.
Oh yeah, top of the leaderboards. Him, and who was it? Is the chef, right? What's his name? Gordon Ramsay. I thought it was him and Gordon Ramsay who were always like neck and neck at the top.
I feel like you're right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Fun trip down memory lane.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening to yet another edition of the Early Apex. This has been a good one.
Wonderful evening here with you, Dylan. It's been a good one. Absolutely.
Always a pleasure. And, dude, I look forward to shooting our next one.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Till next time.
Until then.